Today's second reading is from Luke, chapter 2, verses 21 to 38. When the 8th day arrived for the child's circumcision, he was named Jesus, the name the angel had given him before he was conceived. When the day came for them to be purified, as laid down by the law of Moses, the couple took Jesus up to Jerusalem and presented him to God. For it's written in the law of our God, every firstborn heir is to be consecrated to God. They likewise came to offer in sacrifice a pair of turtle doves or 2 young pigeons in accord with the dictate of the law of our God. Now there lived in Jerusalem a man named Simeon. He was devout and just, anticipating the consolation of Israel, and he was filled with the Holy Spirit. The Spirit had revealed to Simeon that he wouldn't see death until he had seen the Messiah of God. Prompted by the Spirit, Simeon came to the temple, and when the parents brought in the child to perform the customary rituals of the law, he took the child in his arms and praised God, saying, "Now, O God, you can dismiss your servant in peace, just as you promised, because my eyes have seen the salvation which you have prepared for all the peoples to see, a light of revelation to the Gentiles and the glory of your people Israel." As the child's mother and father stood there marveling at the things that were being said, Simeon blessed them and said to Mary, the mother, "This child is destined to be the downfall and the rise of many in Israel, and to be a sign that is rejected, so that the secret thoughts of many may be laid bare, and a sword will pierce your heart as well." There was a woman named Anna, the daughter of Phanuel of the tribe of Asher, who was also a prophet. She had lived a long life, 7 years with her husband, and then as a widow to the age of 84. She never left the temple, worshiping day and night, fasting and praying. Coming up at that moment, she gave thanks to God and talked about the child to all who anticipated the deliverance of Jerusalem.
In December 2000, a group of resident directors, those living in residence halls, and the staff of residence life at Michigan State University gathered in multiple places to make truffle cookies, a chocolate lover's delight, small chocolate cookies with a soft chocolate center. They gathered to make these cookies in memory of the director of residence life who had unexpectedly died. But before she died, her recipe for those truffle cookies was published in Gourmet magazine. For 23 years now, George has been making those chocolate truffle cookies every December. It has become a custom, a tradition, a ritual. A few for us, a few for my chocoholic nephew, a few to send to families and friends, and a couple colleagues who helped make those cookies in 2000. In my family, a tradition for the holidays is orange blossom pie, a recipe found very quickly because in my grandmother's unheated house, the oranges were freezing. It was a super cold winter, and for my aunt and my uncle and others, they would receive boxes, cases of oranges for Christmas. But those oranges were freezing. So my aunt found a recipe for orange blossom pie, and for years, longer than I can even count, orange pies have been made. Now, I have changed the recipe slightly to a better crust, I think, than just the plain graham cracker crust or the ginger snap crust. Mine has a little bit of graham cracker, some brown sugar, some nuts, and some butter, which is then baked into the pan, and then the orange blossom pie is made. Are there recipes or cookies or cake or some entree that is a tradition or ritual in your family? Perhaps at Christmas, perhaps at Easter, perhaps on a certain birthday. In a New York Times article, David Brooks wrote, "Rituals provide comfort because they remind us we're not alone." Billions of people have done this before as part of the timeless passages of life. And he goes on to say, rituals also comfort because they concretize spiritual experiences. When you savor that favorite dessert, that puts you in touch with seasons past. Do you feel a bit of the Spirit flowing in your life? For 3 years and nearly every Thursday at 5:15, I would go to choral vespers at Duke Chapel. And around 5:45, as the service ended, the small choral vespers choir would recess out of the entrance of the small memorial chapel, and they would sing the Blessing of Simeon a cappella to Orlando Gibbons' tune, Song 1. It's the way the service was end. As I was thinking about this service and the readings for today, I ventured onto YouTube and find that choral vespers still happen, not in the small memorial chapel, but in the large chapel. The service was beautiful, but as the service ended, they did not sing the Song of Simeon. And I was irate. How dare they change a custom, this tradition? I don't know when they changed it. Perhaps they only sang it to that tune for the 3 years I was at Duke. But for me, it connected me to something spiritual and divine. And whatever they sang, I can't even remember a cappella still. It wasn't the same. I wonder, perhaps what they sing now is a tradition, and that if they would change it now back to the way it was, everyone else would probably be upset now because they had never heard of Orlando Gibbons or Song 1 or Hymnal 1982, hymn number 499, which is the actual song they would sing from the Episcopal hymnal. Probably no one would guess. And perhaps the tune would be such a shock to the system, people would be just as irate as I was because they changed it. Rituals can bring us back to reality. Rituals can be hard, for it puts us in touch with things we don't want to remember. Perhaps rituals make us grieve, putting us in touch with loved ones past, putting us in touch with memories. Rituals such as birds on the Christmas tree. Rituals in our lives. Mary and Joseph follow custom. They arrive for the circumcision of Jesus, and then a couple of days later, his dedication in the temple. Tradition, ritual, custom. We know how it's going to go. But tradition changed. Because Simeon wanders out and, as I like it, sings hymn number 499 from the hymnal 1982 from the Episcopal Church and sings his song, for the baby Jesus and parents. Perhaps he whispers into Mary's ear the news that this child will upset future generations, that the words that her soul will be pierced too. And then, as tradition is upset and moved, Anna wanders out and she sees the future. Revelation has come to life. I wonder what those parents thought. Those lowly parents expecting the expected, what is supposed to happen, and they go home and saying, what in the world just happened? Perhaps happy that service somehow was customized for their child. Perhaps as we do around baptisms, we try to not just generically create a service for that one child, but we try to make a connection that that child, those parents, are connected to us. Perhaps it's when we gather for memorial services that it reminds us of traditions we shared, but also a new hymn, a new anthem, perhaps words we have never heard or would have ever expected. In the same article that I mentioned earlier, David Brooks talks about perhaps we don't have enough rituals and customs anymore. Perhaps our tendency to be in the present, we have discarded rituals, and some, he says, for good, because we no longer need them, because they don't speak to us the same way. But perhaps we should be crafting customs and traditions that are more courageous. Perhaps, as he says, perhaps there should be a ritual in communities where an incarcerated one enters back in, a ritual of welcoming, a ritual of forgiveness, a ritual of coming back together. Perhaps it is rituals when we take leave from a home that we've lived, a home that was once large and we downsize, move into a community of other peers. Rituals are important, and those customs are important too. The thing is, rituals are fluid. In one of my worship classes, the professor once lectured about traditions in churches and in our lives. And she made this one point, which never showed up on an exam, but stuck in my mind anyway. She says, tradition could be that you woke up 2 days in a row at 8 a.m. and you kept doing it. I promise that wasn't me she was talking about. Morning, if I choose, happens a little later, and I just wake up on my own, and then I move on with my day, even if it goes till 2 a.m. But traditions connect us. But sometimes a tradition of waking up at 8 a.m. for just the sake of waking up with no other purpose sort of seems a bit silly, if you ask me. Why would you do that? But the thing is this. There are times that we associate so much with a certain hymn. There are times when we know this is the way it should go. In a few minutes, we're going to sing the carol, Hark the Herald Angels Sing. Perhaps if you've read a little further in the bulletin, there's a little bit about that song. But in case you haven't heard, when Charles Wesley penned those words, he had no idea who Mendelssohn was. They were separated by, or the hymn and the tune by 100 years. When Mendelssohn penned the tune that we sing, Hark the Herald Angels to, Wesley had been in the grave for 50 years. So Charles Wesley never imagined us singing Hark the Herald Angels Sing as we do. He imagined it to a tune called Easter Hymn which was then changed for a brief period to Christmas hymn. And you know that hymn because we sing it every Easter, Christ the Lord is risen today. Wesley thought those two hymns should be a companion, both sing to the same tune. So, yes, I'm playing around with your favorite Hark the Herald Angels Sing today. And we're going to sing it the way Charles Wesley thought we should sing it. And there was an addition to make it fit to Mendelssohn's tune. A refrain was added. The refrain goes out the window today. But also, you may notice the words have similarities and the words have differences. Over time, those lyrics have changed, sometimes for good, sometimes for bad. In the 1930s, one denomination decided in their hymnal that they would change some of the words about the Virgin, and it didn't go over well. There was a heresy trial because someone changed the words. The Virgin doesn't show up today, but I think the words are just fine as well. It makes us think and remember. But the news is, my friends, the tradition of Hark the Herald Angels Sings continued for happened for 100 years to a different tune, and then it changed. What traditions are in your life? What cookies do you savor? What do you long for? And what needs to change? And what new customs may we develop as a community to welcome, to say goodbye, to reorganize ourselves when necessary? But the thing is this: no matter the tune, no matter the words, no matter the recipe, things change a bit. And the same with Anne's truffle cookies. Because when you go online and Google her recipe, some have claimed ownership of it, some have added powdered sugar, some have added nuts. But the true version is just pure chocolate, multiple chocolate ingredients. So let us savor traditions and let us change them when necessary. For when we do so, we are courageous and making a new future for generations to come. Amen.